Hey, what is up, you guys? This is Eric with OzoneTCG. Today we're taking a look at an Adventure Albaz Therions deck profile. This list is provided courtesy of a friend of the channel, Simon. He's an extremely good player, one of the best I've seen. Just want to take a look at this really interesting deck profile. He's been playing it for a while. Kind of showed us how to use it, and he was the one who explained the Albaz structure deck contents. Before I get into the deck profile, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We're really trying to grow the channel, especially with TCG Advanced format content right now. We're going to have some more Master Duel stuff coming up later. Kind of in between right now with that, and common charity as well. Those are some topics we'll have to talk about in a future video. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and really pump out the competitive content for the TCG format. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get right into the deck profile. Alrighty guys, and so we're going to move on to the main deck. So for the main deck, we're going to start off with the Therions card. This is really the focal point of the deck, and really what pushes this deck, I think, close to Tier 1 status once Dimension Force is out in the TCG. Dimension Force comes out in May 2022 in the TCG here, and these Therions cards are extremely powerful. They are level 7 and 8 effect monsters that special summon themselves from hand by either targeting one of their corresponding types, so plant, warrior, psychic, aqua, etc. From the graveyard to special summon them, and then they also inherit the effects of other Therions monsters. They either special themselves from hand or have another effect. So let's go ahead and get into some of these cards. So we have Therions Lilyborea. Lilyborea, they all have this, the first effect you guys can read. You can target one Therions monster or a plant monster to graveyard, special summon this card from your hand. If you do, equip that monster to this card. They're all going to, like I said, they're all going to have that effect, except for instead of the plant, they're going to be a different type. So it's just the same type as the monster. So in this case, Lilyborea is a plant that was relevant in the Therions Sunvine, Sunseed deck profile I did a little bit ago, but really going to try and get in depth here. Lilyborea can send a card from the hand or field, any card. It doesn't have to be Therions or anything like that. You can add a Therion spell or trap for your deck to your hand. You can only use the effect once per turn, and a Therion's monster equipped with this card gains 700 attack and the preceding effect. That last effect, the 700 attack and preceding effect, that is the same for every single Therion's monster so far. Really, Lilyborea is one of the best ones, probably the best, because it gets you your field spell and it gets you your trap card. The field spell, we'll get to that in a second, really powerful search, but this is the card you really want to be turboing out, because this card can search your negate, which is Therion's King Regulus, Therion's Stipulation for machines. Then when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can send a Therion's monster card from your hand or field to the graveyard, negate that effect. So that's just a generic, like, Borreload Savage effect. It can send itself. It can send a Therion's card it is equipped to, because it would gain that effect. The Therion's monster would gain Regulus's effect. It can also send the monster that is equipped to it. So say that you have a Lilyborea, Lilyborea's inherited effect for Regulus to search a spell or a trap. You send a card from hand, and then your opponent tries to Ash Blossom you. We can chain Regulus's effect to send that Lilyborea that you just you went ahead and used that effect. So it's extremely high value because you're really only losing one card off of that. Because then you still have your Regulus, and Regulus can still send, during the next turn. Because it'll still have its own effect. Extremely powerful effect, and this is probably the best Therion's card, and this is really the reason. This is the monster you want to really turbo out for sure. This is the card that you play. This is an end board piece. It's also 3,500 attack if it has a Therion's monster, just for some reason. So it's just a huge beater anyway, which is relevant. It doesn't have any protection on itself, but some of the other cards do provide some kind of protection in order to really grind down your opponent's resources. This is a really efficient engine, especially once you get it going. Next we have Therion's Leaper Fom. So Fom, stipulation, first and third effect. During your opponent's turn, though, you can, as a quick effect, you can target a Therion's card in your spell or trap zone, and one card the opponent controls, return them to the hand. This card's okay. I definitely overestimated it when I first read the cards. I definitely underestimated some of the other ones, though, but this is still a really good card. All the Therion's monsters are really powerful in their own rights, especially because you gain the attribute. So this can either negate or add a spell or trap if you summon it using Regulus or Borea, But otherwise, it's just another end board piece. Only thing is that it doesn't have the high attack like the other monsters do, so you're basically only want to summon it in defense position. It is still really good recursion though, because you do return your monster to hand. It loses its effect if it inherits the effect of Regulus or Borea, but then you just summon them the next turn either by linking off this leaper or or if it's removed by card effect or battle or anything like that. Still a one of. I think really this is one of the three that you play as a one of. Yeah, good card. Therion's Duke Jewel is the sidekick, so this is actually going to be relevant in a Libromancer deck profile later. You guys will see that soon. I think this is the worst one overall, but there is a unique reason we play this in this deck besides just the effect that while you control an equipped card, Therion's monsters you control cannot be destroyed by the opponent's card effects. That's relevant. For the mirror because of the next monster, but this is unique because of the Albaz cards. We'll get to that in a little bit though. I'll explain why. But yeah, you do play this at least. It's another name, and it has 2800 defense. It's pretty good, and really just used to make sure you don't lose to something like Torrential Tribute or Solemn Strike. And then we have Bullseye, and this is the Warrior. You can target a Therion's card you control and one card the opponent controls, destroy them. So this can destroy your monster cards in your spell and trap zone, or your field spell. It doesn't have to be just your own cards. Now your Jewel cannot protect this, from this effect if you use your own, but it can protect it if your opponent tries to use it. Still good with a 2800 attack if it's equipped, or if a Therion's monster is equipped to it. So I think it's just good going second. It's, like I said, all the Therion's monsters are extremely powerful in their own rights and function out like mech knights. You kind of force your opponent to respond to them, otherwise they lose to a lot of disruption. But next we have the Foolish Burial of the deck. This card's really, really interesting because it works with a couple of the other cards. You send a Therion's card from your deck to the graveyard. This is Perpetual Engine Argyro System. This is kind of really the boss monster, the Therions. It looks like a floating pair of eyes in a energy ball or something. But you can send a Therion's card from your deck to your graveyard. It can be a spell or trap as well. Don't really want to send the spells or traps, you're just focusing on the monsters. But the interesting thing is that you can target a Therion's card in the graveyard, add this card to the hand, or that target to the hand if you do place the other. So this, you can only use one effect that turn and only once that turn. So this really is kind of recursion. You Foolish at turn 1 and turn 3, add back your Therion's monsters to refuel their effects and generate more advantage that way. You do need to play this. I was mistaken before in my previous deck profile. You absolutely need to play this at 3. Really, this engine does not work unless you have a Therion's monster in the graveyard. I think in a plant version it's okay to play fewer because your plant monsters all get to Lily Borea. That's different though, so maybe not quite as mistaken as I originally thought. But in this version you definitely need to play 3. Your deck lives and dies by making sure that you have a Therion card, Therion's monster in the graveyard, because we don't play the corresponding types. You really need to get those Therion's monsters in the graveyard. We play a lot of other cards that help discard cards to make sure you can fuel those effects. But yeah, this is a really, really cool card. I do like the recursion effect. It does come up almost every single game, especially if your opponent doesn't banish it from the graveyard. So definitely play 3 in this version. And then we have the field spell, Therion's Ring, the Colosseum Saucer. It is a Tenki on activation. It's a field spell, so you can play. We do play Terraforming. Search for any Therion's monster from your deck to your hand. Really, really good card. Just in its own right, it just needed to do that. It has 2 other effects though. If your monster would be destroyed by battle, you can send a Therion's card or Perpetual Engine from your deck to your graveyard instead. That protects any of your monsters, and you can send any of your Therion's cards or our gyro system. That fuels your gyro system, our gyro system, for your turn 3 play to add back your Therion's monster. Again, protects your Griffin from being destroyed by battle. Yeah, it's really nice. And then for the last effect, once per turn, when a monster is from battle and sent to the graveyard, you can target a Therion's monster graveyard, add to the hand. You can only activate 1 per turn. For some reason, they made that recursion effect so you can protect your monster. Turn after, you destroy a monster battle, get that monster back. It could be a +2. You gotta play 3. I mean, you play this card until it's limited or something. This engine's very, very potent. Yeah, it's not as relevant, the adding back, but it's just for some reason still there. The battle protection is still the better effect of those two. But yeah, you gotta play 3 and 4 copies total with terraforming. But yeah, then we have Therion's Cross. When your opponent activates a monster effect while you control Therion's monster, activate one of these effects, or if you have Perpetual Engine or Gyro system in your graveyard, you can activate both in sequence. Negate that effect and banish that monster. You can only activate 1 per turn. You just search this off Lily Borea. If you have, say, Regulus with Lily Borea, use Regulus, discard a card from hand, and then search this card. You have 2 monster negates or a spell and trap negate and a monster negate, and it banishes that card. It doesn't just destroy it. It doesn't destroy it at all, in fact. So they activate, long you end from the hand. Any of their 10E cards in the hand, they're just banished. They lose out on that effect too. Ray in the graveyard negates that effect of Ray, so they can't use another one, and banishes that Ray. Yeah, this is a really, really powerful one of, but you don't really want to see more than one, and you really only want to search it. It's not great in that if you have to discard it or if it's your only Therion's card, but still a good one of. And then we have the adventure cards. You guys need to know what these cards do. If you haven't read them, please read them. If you can pick them up, please do. This is a really, really powerful engine. It's already hitting the OCG because it's just been doing so much there for the past few months. Aquamancer searches your Rite of Aramasir from your deck or graveyard to your hand. If you control an adventure token, you can special summon it. It's level 3. You can mill it off of Karubini. And then if you control an adventure token, you can place a field spell that mentions adventure token from your deck to face up in your field zone. You can only use each effect. The third effect to place a field spell doesn't come up too often because we don't play any of the field spells, so they're not that great. But the fact that it even has that. Aquamancer, or Water Enchantress, is the best card, at least the best monster in this adventure deck. You gotta play 3. Again, until it's hit, you have to play 3. You just need to. This searches your token summoner, and your token summoner gets a lot of advantage off of just 1 card. Yeah, you gotta play 3. And then what Griffin is just a negate. Once per turn, if you control no monsters or control an adventurer token, special from the hand. And then when a card or effect is activated, negate the activation, destroy that card. You can only use each effect once per turn, so it's a free summon regardless. Can summon Predaplant Verde Anaconda with Rite of Aramasir. That actually searches them on their own. You can make Verde Anaconda with just 1 card, and doesn't even use the normal summon. Doesn't even go into your Therions at all. It's insane. I mean, you have to see this deck to really understand. We'll put a replay. I'll have a replay playing for you guys in a little bit. Yeah, this engine is just insane. You guys haven't, again, if you haven't read it beyond what I'm telling you guys will see it. It's just so much advantage. You add everything, you do everything that you want. Draco back, good discard, because if it's sent to the graveyard, it's like some of the Noble Arms cards. You can target an adventure token, you control, equip it to that card. Then once per turn, if it's equipped to a non-effect monster, you can bounce a card your opponent controls. Yeah, just good one of. You search it off of one of the other cards. Rite of Aramasir. This is the focal point of the deck. If you control no adventure token, you special summon an adventure token. It's an Earth Fairy, level 4, 2000 attack, 2000 defense, randomly. You can't activate the effects of monsters in your field the turn you activate it, except special summon monsters. So you cannot normal summon, say, Tour Guide and use the effect. That's the only downside to it. If your deck doesn't do it, which this deck really doesn't anyway, cool. You just get free cards. And then for some reason it places Fateful Adventure. That's the continuous spell. We'll get into that in a second, but it's a +1, it's a +1 on its own. You can go into Link Spider. They don't restrict you at all from summoning. It's insane. Just flat out, just insane. You can go token, place Fateful Adventure, summon Link Spider, Fateful Adventure triggers, and then Fateful Adventure gets you another card. Or you can, add Draco back with Fateful Adventure, discard it to search Griffin, and then you don't even lose any advantage from there. It's ridiculous. Fateful Adventure has a protection effect once per turn. Monster you control will be destroyed by battle. While it's equipped with an equip card, it's not destroyed. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. During the main phase, you can add a monster that mentions adventure token. So there are a couple, and there's in the Dimension Force set, you get Illegal Knight, which is a bounce 2. Stupidly powerful effect. Anyone who says anything otherwise hasn't read the card. Yeah, it just searches everything. You can search Griffin. And then if a monster is normal summon or special summon, that triggers during either player's turn, not just on your turn or with your monster. You can take an equip spell that mentions adventure token from your deck and add it or equip it. So, if they troll you after you search Griffin, cool. You just get a free bounce anyway. You get your token. You get your equip spell. Stupidly powerful card. I think this is the reason to play the deck in addition to the token, Rite of Aramasir, because it just gets you everything. It does everything every turn. Griffin puts itself back into the deck, and then you search it the next turn, and then you do the same thing every single turn. It's a free negate. Aquamancer, you can search Aquamancer, you can get another token if you link it off, summon and link to, summon whatever you want. It's a fairy. It can turn into an earth. It can turn into a light. It can turn into anything. This engine is just insane, and it's been just tearing up the competition so far, ever since it came out last month. You gotta play at least one, though. I would maybe even consider two. It's just that strong. Alrighty, and then we have the Albaz engine. We have the 1 Fallen of Albaz and 3 Branded Fusion. This deck is also really powerful. It's both a deck and an engine. In this case, we're playing Albaz as an engine. Branded Fusion is a shit-all fusion anytime using a fusion monster that uses Fallen of Albaz's fusion from your hand, deck, or field. You can only activate a Branded Fusion once per turn. You can't special summon monsters from the extra deck to the turn you activate it, except fusion monsters. But really, it doesn't even matter, because you just summon from the deck. You send materials from the deck. So this is what I was talking about. So Duke Jewel is a light monster. One of your Albaz fusions requires a light monster, and then it goes into your other Albaz fusion. Albion the Branded Dragon requires Fallen of Albaz and a light monster. You send those two from the deck to summon it, and then Albion banishes itself and Albaz from the graveyard to go ahead and summon Mirror Jade, which is the big boss monster for the Albaz Strike structure deck coming out in April here in the TCG. And then it puts a Therions monster in the graveyard. It protects them. They can't destroy your monsters by card effects, your Therions monsters at least. On its own, Branded Fusion just kickstarts your engine as well, in addition to having your Argyro system and your Therions field spell. It's ridiculous. I mean, and then it banishes a monster. It can banish itself, can banish one of your Therions to protect them for dodge and permanence, anything like that. It destroys monsters in the end phase. Yeah, this engine's ridiculous. And then Albion can also, if you want to send it off of Mirror Jade, it can also add Branded Fusion during the end phase, add it to your hand because it's a branded spell or trap. Really powerful stuff. I mean, this stuff all just works together just to do anything. I mean, it has non-targeting removal. It has, hard removal. It can OTK. It has a bunch of defensive options. Forces your opponent to respond to single cards to trade ineffectively with hand traps. Trade ineffectively with spot removal. It's really, really strong. I think this is going to be one of the best decks post-Dimension Force. And then for the generic cards, we have Triple Ash Blossom. Nothing else to say there. It's Ash Blossom. You got to play it. You got the 1 Terraforming. You got to play this card because the Therions field spell. Foolish Burial to get either your Therions cards or your Water Enchantress into the graveyard. You got to have that. Pot of Prosperity just to dig through the deck. Again, force your opponent to trade. So say you have this and Branded Fusion. You would use this first. If your opponent has Ash, they're going to Ash this obviously. And then your Branded Fusion just resolves anyway. Called by the Grave, anti-hand trap. In case you get Veilered, or randomly Ghost Ogre versus your adventure cards or some of your Therions cards. You do want to protect yourself. You can really cut this card. Same with Prosperity. I don't think you necessarily need to play those. They are very good cards though to play. I wouldn't cut Prosperity if you don't have to. The other card you can play is Forbidden Droplet. You can play like Forbidden Chalice instead. I think Droplet is really good in this deck though because you do want cards in the graveyard, especially going second. I think this is one of the decks where Droplet is just objectively better than Chalice. Because you do want your Water Enchantress and Therions monsters or our Gyro system in the graveyard. I think you should play this instead though. But you don't have to necessarily. But it's Droplet. I mean, negates effects. Really good. Again, about trading effectively versus your opponent, forcing him to trade ineffectively to make sure you get the most out of your card effects. So we're going to move on to the extra deck next. And the extra deck is a really interesting package. This is very different from the Albaz, the regular Albaz engines, because you can just play a bunch of toolbox cards. Alrighty, and for the extra deck, we're going to start off with the fusions. We have Albion, the Branded Dragon. If you guys don't know what this does, be sure to read it. Just banishes materials from the field or graveyard as Miracle Fusion to fusion summon an Albaz. Or any level 8 or lower fusion monster can summon DP if you already have the cards in the graveyard. You can also play DP in this deck if you wanted to. We don't in this case, but you absolutely can, especially with Fusion Destiny at 2 in the TCG now. That is definitely an option still. And then Lubellion, this actually just shuffles your monsters from the graveyard or banish or field to fusion summon a level 8 or lower fusion monster, also completely generic. And the Albaz, the other Albaz fusions are all level 8 or lower. Don't know why it's generic, but yeah, it recycles your Albaz and other materials, so you can use Branded Fusion and send monsters from the deck. And then we have Mirror Jade. This is the reason to play the Albaz engine. It is so powerful. A non-targeting banish, again, with like cards like Shirag, but this is a quick effect. It is not once per turn. Not a hard once per turn, that is, in that, you know, if you can summon it out again with, you know, any kind of tech cards you play, or in the regular Albaz deck, you can use it again. Just crazy. And then Brigand. This is the Tri-Brigade Albaz fusion monster. Really, we play just because it has a 2500 attack. We don't want to play any of the others. It's okay, you know, if you want to play something like Kit, you can. You don't necessarily have to, but either Tri-Brigade Kit, I don't think we played in this version, or Mercurier, which is a Tri-Brigade monster. Yeah, that's those are options too. I think this is probably just the best one to potentially, you know, fusion summon if you need to, because it does take a level 8 or higher monster, and your Therions monsters cover that. Yeah, so that's the fusion monsters. The Xyz monsters are really simple. This is actually just the, you know, kind of 8-axis turbo deck. This is the engine that they use, and we have a AA Zeus. It just OTKs for, you know, 8 or 9,000 damage because you summon Numero Dragon. Yeah, this is just OTK. Some of the Therions monsters are level 8 too. And yeah, you just punch through everything. And then the Link monsters are pretty standard, and they are pretty generic as well. We have Artemis, just in case you need to normal summon Water Enchantress. Link Spider, because you use your adventure token to summon an effect monster. And then Verde Anaconda requires an effect monster, which is your Link Spider plus your Griffin. It is a free Verde Anaconda. It's so dumb. And then Verde can send Branded Fusion. You send Albaz in itself to summon Mirror Jade, so it's just a turn 1 Mirror Jade for free. Again, just for some reason. I'm not sure why they made that card generic. I'm surprised this didn't get hit. You gotta play this card, though, in your Albaz decks. And then we have Barricade Borg Blocker. This adds your Therion's field spell, Fateful Adventure. Yeah, and then it can discard, too, which is actually relevant. And adding back your continuous if they're removed is actually relevant as well. I think you do need to play this, and it is just another material to summon Access Code. And then we have the World Gears of Theurgical Demiurgy. This card has not done anything since it came out. Requires 3 level 5 or higher monsters. Can't be used as link material. You just summon this off of your Therions and Fusions and Wandering Griffin. During the main phase, you can, if you control this card, it was link summon using 3 monsters that had 3 different types. All your Therions monsters are 3 different types, and Wandering Griffin is a different type, and your Albaz Fusions are different types. You can destroy all other cards in the field, just free removal. It's also 3,500 attack for some reason. Yeah, cool, really cool removal. I think you just use it for the attack though. And then if your opponent special summons a monster from the extra deck, special summon a World Legacy monster from your deck. We don't play any of those. That's not relevant. It is just a big beater. It's also unaffected by other monster effects. So going into huge combo boards, you can, you know, try some of this, and they probably can't out this except with maybe Access Code, maybe Boral's Sword. And then we, of course, have Access Code Talker. Yeah, just the best link for the game right now, I think. And just being able to banish any of your attributes from the graveyard, just to remove everything. It's really, really cool. And this deck doesn't have a problem flooding the field either, unlike other Albaz and Adventure token decks. It's fine to commit the resources because you put the Therions monsters in the graveyard to summon them again another turn, or just to kill the opponent that turn. So that's the extra deck. The side deck is really going to depend on your format. We're just playing Nibiru, Lancia, Token Collector, Bell, Duster, and Twin Twister. I think these are the best cards to play in the side right now. We may play Dark Ruler no more, or some kind of Going First trap, anything like that. But yeah, it just depends on the meta, how it shapes up with Dimension Force. We're going to go ahead and show a replay from this. It's going to be through Edo Pro, so not the most competitive form, but it is a really cool deck just to see how everything interacts with each other. Take a look at it, and then yeah. So that was the Adventure deck profile, guys. This was Adventure, Albaz, Therions. I'm really excited to play this deck. I absolutely love Sword Soul right now, but having played it for almost 5 months now at this point, it's a little stale, just a little. I'll still play it though. I'll still have that. I'll play the deck until it's no longer playable. But I'm really excited to play this for Dimension Force. I think I'm going to play this for some of the case tournaments that are coming up in May and June over where I am. I think this deck is so cool, though. I absolutely love the interactions. It is a very high skill ceiling deck because your cards have to... The way you structure your plays does matter a lot. There are very good ways to play this deck, there are very intelligent ways, and there are very poor ways to play this deck. If you guys want to see a guide on how to play this deck, some replays from Simon, he's been playing this for a while. He definitely knows better than I do. He's just a better player overall than I am. Far better. Yeah, I could go and show you guys that if he'll let me, if he wants to even come on to the channel at some point. I think this deck is just so cool. I love the way everything interacts. Does sometimes brick because there are sometimes you just don't have the cards you need. The Therions, like I said, you live and die by the Foolish Burial. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'm excited to play this for the TCG. I'm going to put more replays on here just for my own testing. But yeah, this is Eric with OzoneTCG. See you guys in the next one.